Hello, I'm Thomas, and I'd like to introduce you to my character editor for Blender and Unreal Engine 5. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to install it, how to use it to create your own 3D character, and how to export it to Unreal Engine 5. In the end, I'm gonna show you how to add your own hair assets to the editor, as well as the textures for skin material. It's based on already existing Blender add-on MPFB2, and it extends its functionalities with Material Editor, Unreal Engine 5 compatibility, and Hair Editor. This editor is completely free, and so you can download it from my Gumroad, for which I'm gonna give you a link into the description of the video. There also might be some bugs, which I will be fixing later, but just check them out down on my Gumroad page. So, first things first, I'm gonna show you how to install this editor. It's Blender add-on. You will download a zip file, and it can be downloaded right from the Blender. Let's go to Edit, Preferences, go to Add-ons. Here, on the top right corner, you choose Install from Disk, then find the zip file, just click it and hit install from disk. It will take a while, and then it should appear here in between the add-ons. You can search for it. Maybe. And make sure it's checked. Maybe it will need to restart Blender, but then it should show up in the end panel right here. First, I'm gonna show you how to use the MPFB add-on. Just really quick, if you want some detailed tutorial, I'll give you a link to the MPFB official website, where you can find more information about how to use this add-on. But I'll just show you a quick tutorial how to do the basic things. Here are some of the presets which can be always changed later. So we just hit create human, and here we can see our model. We got some new tabs here. Make sure every time you want to edit the model, that the model is selected unless you won't see these tabs. So here under model, we have a lot of categories we can change. Just walk through it. It changes the geometry of the model. Here under apply assets, there are some assets you can apply to your model. It's better to do this in the end because it changes the geometry. Because when you, for example, use some clothes, it needs rig. So here under rigging, we can add various different rigs, which we can use to animate the model, like this. And after we've applied the rig, we can use some of the library assets like clothes, some facial hair, etc. These assets hide the geometry, so it might not work really well with the extensions that I've added. So make sure you add these just really in the end. So we will go back because we're gonna later add a new rig. Here are also the eyes, so if you would like to give your character some eyes, they are here. Now I'm gonna show you the tabs that I've added. First, Skin Editor. It allows you to add two different materials. Complex material gives you more control over like specific wrinkles, etc. But it uses too much textures for Eevee to handle. So it depends on the machine you are using, but mostly it will cause Eevee to just show like pink color all over the mesh. So If you want to use complex material, make sure you have your cycles render selected. So we're gonna use EV compatible for now. After you've applied the material, you can change here up the viewport shading, so we can actually see the material. So the material has been added and we can see different categories which we can edit. First, let's start with the base category. Here we can change the skin color, let's say for red, because why not? Now we need to change the color influence to actually see the color. Because if we choose the white color, we cannot like make it more white. So that's why here is also gamma correction, which can make the skin like more pale or just darker. It's from default it uses just a single base texture. Maybe I'll add some more. Also we can add the base normal texture for face, so it just highlights wrinkles a little bit. But if we want to really add some wrinkles, we need to go to wrinkles and adjust. Always for every texture you have the color texture and the normal texture. The normal just highlights the wrinkles like plastically, and color makes it more visible. Here I've added actually more variations of the texture, so you can switch between the textures you want to use as a wrinkles. So here for eyes, you can change it to this, and now the wrinkles looks different. For muscles, there are only normal textures, which highlights the muscles. Like this. Others are things that didn't fit into any other category. So there are calyces, which we can add here. Knuckle wounds or veins. The last two categories are tattoos. This interface allows you to apply to a mesh any image that you have in your gallery. You can choose if you want this image to be influenced by the base color of the skin. For like normal tattoos, you probably leave this unchecked, but if you want to add, for example, scar, you're probably gonna want to leave this checked. Like this, we can apply a tattoo, and when we are satisfied, we can hit save tattoo. Now the tattoo has been saved, and we can see it here under the tattoo tab. Like this, here's scar small, and we can change its influence. We've checked the color influence, so if we change the human color, we can see color of the tattoo changes too. Also, it allows you to add normal texture tattoos if this image you're using ends with norm, like this. Here the color influence doesn't do anything. This tattoo will be treated as a normal texture. Also quite useful thing is when you hit shift and right mouse button, you can scale the tattoo. With control, you can rotate the tattoo. It might be useful for some use cases. So we're gonna put it here. You can see this doesn't do much. This texture is quite bad, but you can see it here. It just changes the visual bumpiness of the skin. Make sure you always save the tattoo you are editing. Now we can also edit the influence of this tattoo. The freckles tab allows you to add surprise freckles to your character. I just hit add freckles, and now you get a brush with freckles, and you can change color of the freckles, also the size and distance of individual freckles. Let's paint some of them. Now we can see we've added like little dots here. And if you change the size, they are bigger. They can be used for like birthmarks. And if you change the distance to 0, it behaves like normal painting brush, so you can like paint a smile here, or you can use it to do like makeup or these sorts of things. I believe you're probably gonna get a better results than me. Also here, make sure you save the freckles. Eventually you can edit the freckles if you want to add some of them later. Now you might notice the loading of new tattoo texture or new freckles texture might be kind of slow. It's because the material is really complex. It uses a whole ton of textures, which is not exactly what we would want to if we would like to use this human mesh for some game or something like that. And that's why we have here this big material tab. Uh, you can choose the resolution of the baked texture, and here you can choose whether you want to bake individual categories into the base texture. Let's say we have everything checked, then our result will be only one color and one normal texture. But if we, let's say, get away wrinkles, then each of the wrinkles texture, like the wrinkles for eyes, wrinkles for mouth, will be baked together but separately. So you get a base texture with muscles and everything, and wrinkles will be baked separately. We can also check to bake with GPU if you have one, and if you want to bake it at once, you can bake it like this, or you can bake the diffuse textures and normal textures separately. It's quite good if you are baking on higher resolutions. Blender is quite prone to crashing in because it's quite memory demanding, this baking process. Just to make it quick, we just use a 1K texture, bake it once. You can choose the destination where you want to store your baked textures and hit bake material. Now you can see the resolution has dropped. That's because now to our material only these two textures that we've baked are plugged, and they have only 1K resolution, so that's why it doesn't look so detailed. Now let's go to the hair editor. First we need to set up hair. Here we can see our hair assets and fur assets. Hair assets are also differentiated to different categories. And so you can pick any of the hair assets. Let's say we want to add beard to our character. Now we got here a beautiful beard. We can change its color. It has two different colors which are mixed. So we can better see it. We make a blue-red bird. And as a color distribution, you can change the mixing of these colors like this. We can also darken the root of the hair assets and length of this darkened root. Now we can change the shape of this hair asset. We can change its length, its density, its thickness, what if I just done? Of course. Frizz adds noise to each individual hair. These hair assets are based on simple fur from Blender 3.5, and it just combines the modifiers you can add. You can find here under hair, which are combined and accessible through this UI. Roll adds roll to, again, each individual hair, but we need to change the roll radius so it shows up. Yeah, and also that's why it just changes the end of the hair. We need to also adjust the roll length. We can clump these hairs and change the size of individual clumps like this, and also shape of these clumps and spread of its tip. Noise adds noise to whole hair assets. It just goes to different directions. We can change some variations to the noise. Then curl. It just makes, it's like a clump, but it curls the hair. You can again change the guide distance, the size of these curls, and also the curl radius. It's kinda clunky. You need to just find the right settings so it doesn't look weird. Just play around with it, and I'm sure you'll get some quite interesting results. I'm sorry my Blender crashed, but here we've got a new model. So let's add some fur assets because they have different modifiers we can change. Let's say we want to add just hair, for example. First we're gonna crank up length and thickness so we can see something nice. Now we can see we have here also the bold holes. when we crank them up, we can see more and more holes appear, and we can also change the scale of the holes. It's a little anti-intuitive because the bigger the value is, the smaller the holes are. When we put it down, the holes are large. I'm gonna fix it someday maybe, but for now it looks like this. And the other thing we can change is that for fur assets we can use, instead of these two mixing colors, we can load some texture. So here, just for example, I'm gonna use yellow and black texture. Sometimes it needs to be refreshed so it appears on the fur asset. Now, these fur assets are based on curves and it's quite demanding for render resources. And if we want to use it, for example, for games, we would maybe like to have a way to convert it to cards. So let's say we want to convert our bird asset to cards. Here, right down below, we can either delete it, or here we have an option to convert it to cards. Here, as we can see, our card asset appeared. Because bird assets have already pre-created card asset, we just need to adjust its position to fit well with the mesh. We press G and move it around to fit somewhat well. Let's say we are satisfied. Now we can choose some render settings. We can either bake it as glossy or diffuse. As it's written here, diffuse is more stable, but doesn't look so shiny and so good by the hair assets. I will show you how it looks by the chest hair. For now we use glossy, and we can set the resolution of the baked texture and render samples. Usually glossy bake is better with more samples, and diffuse is quite okay even with lower render settings. We can choose texture destination and we hit bake cards. As we were moving around the card asset, we deselected the human mesh, so we need to select it again and hit bake cards. Now the textures are baked on the cards, and the original curve-based asset is hidden, as we can see here. So now this is just these curves with alpha masked texture. Now we are going to do the same thing for the chest hair. Let's go here and convert to cards. Because chest hair do not have a pre-created cards asset, cards will be generated around the curves. And we can adjust the parameters of the generation. We can change the scale of the cards and the card density. Usually the more cards you will have, the lower the resolution will be, because more cards are mapped on the same texture. So for each card, the smaller segment of the texture will be used. And here's also seed, because when we are adjusting the density, we are deleting random cards, and this will change the seed of this delete function, and thus change the placement of these cards. Let's put the density a little bit lower. Something like 0.7 should be fine. Let's say this might be quite good. It's not gonna look super good, but you would find better settings for your model. And we hit bake. Now we can see we have used too few cards, but the other thing we can see is that this baking process really reflects how the original asset looked like. The thickness of the hair is the same, and also the black parts are black, the yellow parts are yellow. So if you had better placed cards, it would look correct. Now for the final part here in Blender, we are gonna export our mesh to Unreal Engine 5. We have here the exports panel. Make sure you have your mesh selected, and also one more thing, we need Unreal Engine 5 rig. It can be found here under standard rigs. Select V5 rig and hit add standard rig. Here you can see some of the bones are sticking out of the mesh. It's because Unreal Engine 5 mannequin has different orientation for left and right limbs. So this one rig is not exactly perfect if you want to animate your character here in Blender. It's a little bit impractical, but we need it if we want to export this into Unreal Engine 5. So the rig is applied, and we go to Export panel. We set up the export, and here we have a few options. We can join cards with the mesh. Those are these assets. If we choose to join them, they will be exported as one FBX mesh with the object. And also we have an option to merge the original curve-based hair assets together, because mesh and the cards are exported as FBX file, but curve-based hair can be exported only as a Lambda file and used as groom asset in Unreal Engine 5, as I will show you later. We can also choose the name for our export character and the destination. We hit export and it will export automatically. Now we have our character exported and we can import it right into Unreal Engine 5. Find yourself a file where you want to import your character. Find your FBX file, you export it and drag it in. Now it will take a while before the import window appears. As a skeleton, make sure you have SK mannequin selected. This one. And the material, we want to create new materials. And hit import all. We can get rid of these messages. Now, when we look at our mesh, we can see it came with the cards, because we selected we want to join cards to the mesh. But here's a problem, that the cards are not half transparent. is because it doesn't use the alpha value as transparent by default in Unreal Engine 5, so we need to set it up in Material Editor. So let's click first our thick bird baked material. Now we want to put it into opacity, but it's not by default available, so we need to click our shader node, and instead of opaque use, I think it's translucent, yeah, and put alpha to opacity. Now we can see only our hair are visible. Let's apply, hit save. Now we see here it works fine, and we need to do the same for the chest hair. Apply, save. Now we can see our human has already applied our hair, and it looks pretty decent. Now if we would like to use our mesh as our playable character, when we hit play, by default we have this Unreal Engine 5 mannequin, but we need to swap it with our new character. Go to content, you should find third person tab, blueprints, and third person blueprint. Now we need to go to viewport, and here as our skeletal mesh asset we want to use our downloaded human. Now as we can see, all animations are applied, and we should be, after we compile it, we should be able to play for our new created character. Let's apply, and now as you can see, you can walk around, jump around with our newly created human. So there's one more thing we might want to do, and that's importing our original curve-based asset into Unreal Engine as groom. As you can see, I've added a new human because the previous one had the cards assets joined, so it would overlap with our groom asset and it wouldn't be well visible. And I've also added a material some tattoo, so you can see how the material from the editor works in Unreal Engine 5. So let's find our first, before we can import anything, we need to go to Edit, Plugins, and make sure you have Alembic Groom Importer and Groom plugin checked. Now we can find our Alembic file with the hair, drop it in. Here we need to make sure our rotation for x-axis is set to 90 degrees, and for y-axis the scale is -1. We hit import. Now we have here our hair export asset. Now it's barely visible, it's because it natively has some default thickness and we need to use the original hair width. Now we can see it better, and as you can see, Alembic file cannot cannot carry information about the material, so we would need to recreate the material in Unreal Engine 5. Now, here with our new mesh and third-person blueprint, we select our mesh, we hit add and search for groom assets. Now, here under groom assets and details panel, select our imported groom asset as our export. Now we can see it doesn't really move with our character. That's because we need to bind it to our character. So right click on our asset, hit create binding, select our mesh we want to bind it to, hit create. Now the binding has been created. We can see it here. And one more thing is we need to, in our third person character blueprint, we need to activate it. So here under binding assets, we find this one, and now as you can see our character already has our newly added groom asset. We hit compile, save it, and we hit play. Now you can see the character with some samurai tattoo and our newly added hair. And for the final part of this video, I'm gonna show you how to add your own hair assets to the editor and own textures into the already existing two materials. So let's get to it. We need to find our Blender file. It's in app data. It's accessible through your main drive, users, find your user, and make sure you have it's hidden file, so you should have hidden files visible so you can access it. Now roaming, Blender Foundation, Blender. It might be different on your system, but it's more or less something like this. Find your Blender version and scripts, add-ons, and PFP. Then for the hair, let's go to data and hair. These files are for the library assets, but all the files that are in our hair editor tab are in hair editor folder. And here we can see we have multiple hair assets and one fur file. That's because, as we can see here, fur has quite a lot of files, and it's for the so we don't have like 20 files, 20 Blender files here. We used just single fur file because most of them are quite similar, and for the future improvements of this add-on, it will be better if it's treated this way. So let's say we want to add our fur asset. While adding hair assets, we essentially need to do two things, and that's creating the asset itself, and we need to note it in JSON file in folder I will show you later. So Here we have a lot of different fur assets, and hopefully we might have here empty fur. No, we actually do not. It doesn't matter. We can use, let's say, main fur. We can duplicate it. Let's go to sculpt mode, to the delete, and we're gonna delete everything. Now we can paint our new fur wherever we want. Then you can sculpt it. It's just very similar to old Blender particle system. Just something like that. We need to rename it for new. And one more thing is we need to rename the material, but we need to first add new material, new, Control C to copy. We delete everything that's here, Control V, and rename it as for new. We shall delete this one. Now if we go to render, object mode, and put there some really bright color. Yeah, we can see it works. So we have our model, our material, and that should be everything we need. We needed to change the material so it would appear differently in the editor. Otherwise, when you would be editing the main material, it would also edit material of our new asset, which is not exactly what we want. So now the other part, let's go to app data. Now we need to make sure Blender knows about this asset. So let's go to UI. Head editor panel, properties. Now, because we are adding a fur, we will open fur assets.json file. And we shall add it here. Don't forget the comma, otherwise it wouldn't work. We increase the number in case you would like it to appear higher in the list. You just put it somewhere higher and move all the numbers under this one lower. Here we need to give it proper name. Here is just the description, and Yeah, here is this. This is name of the asset. That needs to be same as here on the file we created. The second thing is what will appear in this drawer. And the last thing is just description when you slide over it. That's the last part, we can leave it same. Save it. Now when we open new Blender file, create new human, under fur we have fur new. Now we get an error that fur new was not found in blend file, and that is because we haven't saved it. So hopefully now it should work. Yeah, we have it right here. Alright, now what if we want to add hair, facial hair, or something like that, just not fur asset? We can delete this one, close this one, and let's go to our data folder. Hair editor. Now, in case we would want to add a hair asset, it needs to be in a separate file, and so we can do it either here is empty hair file, which has everything preset. We just copy it, rename it, open the file, here we rename it same as the file, hair new, as well as the material, and here we can directly add our hair. It's safe. Now we just need to mention it in our properties. Now you can decide whether you want to save it as facial assets, eyebrow assets, other assets. The important thing is it shouldn't be in fur assets. So we've put it on his head, so let's give it to hair asset. Name must be the same as the file name. Hair new. Yeah, this is again the description, and don't forget to change this one. Save it. Now when we open new Blender file, our asset should be here in hair, apply hair. Yeah, the problem is we didn't close this file probably. Yeah, it's because the name is wrong. In the properties file, we named it hair new, and the file is actually named new hair. Sorry about that. Oh, that was blend1 file. This one is the one we need to change. Now it should be all right. And we see the few strands we have added. And the last thing, in case we would need to upgrade our material, let's say for wrinkles, we either would like to have like some body wrinkles category here, which we currently do not have, or by the eyes texture, we would like to have here some third alternative. So let's see how we can do this. First, we need our texture. Here in the data folder, we go to textures, skin editor, and now we can choose from these categories. Base, alpha textures are not used. Muscle, tattoo textures, tattoo sources, which is just default folder for the tattoos in case you would like to store it somewhere, and the wrinkles. Now here we can put our textures we would like to use. The best way to map them is just to be guided by these ones and drag it onto the mesh. The same with normal textures. By the normal textures, make sure they end with underscore norm. Otherwise, they will be treated like diffuse textures. After we put here textures we want, we need to head to UI, scan editor panel, texture paths, and now we choose the material that we wanna use. Let's say we want to add that to EV texture paths. And now, in case we would like to add a different texture for the eyes, like here we want to third wrinkle texture, we just find body. It's best found by the label or the box. Here is normal texture for eyes. We are already in the normal textures. Eyes diffuse. Here is the default path, so it's path to the texture. It always starts with double dot data textures skin editor, and here you can copy it from other texture and just change the name that you've added. And here make sure you are in the correct category folder, and yeah, so here is the default, and here are other alternatives. So in case we would like third texture, we would add our path here. In case we would like body wrinkles, we'd need to make new box for it. So we would just copy it, paste it somewhere here. Here, be careful because in the material, it depends on where the textures are, because they might be hidden behind each other. So let's say we would want to add some wrinkles textures on our belly, but we need to make sure that this textures for wrinkles on the belly are behind textures of, let's say, muscles, because the muscles uh, would hide it behind because it's big texture. Actually, we do not use uh, in this extension diffuse texture for muscles, but in case you would be adding like uh, normal wrinkle texture, you can see it would be hidden behind EV apps. So here's the textures. In case you would like some wrinkles here, they would be hidden unless the wrinkles texture would be above the muscles texture. So be careful about that. And now here we just change label of it. Label is just the label of the texture in the shader editor. So by the label, just make sure it isn't the same as some of the ones before, and that it doesn't end tattoo or baked or something like that. Just make sure it's just some original name. Box is eyes. It's this one. So it's the name of this black box. Drawer is this one. It chooses in which one of these this is gonna be. Alternative paths can include just the one default texture, unless you want to add different ones. And that's all you would need to do. I currently do not have any good texture I could show you, but I think it's clear how to do it. In case you would have any problems, write me down in the comments and I will help you. So I believe that's everything from me. I hope you found it useful, and if I forgot to explain something or you found any bugs in the editor, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. This is the first version of the editor, so I'm gonna be working on some improvements, and if you'd like to stay up to date, you can consider subscribing to this channel. And if you would like to support me, you can always leave me some tip on the Gumroad store. Goodbye and have a nice day.